In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
Welcome, everybody. Merrill Chandler here, your host of the Get Fundable podcast, the Get Fundable universe. And in this episode, you've seen me pull the curtain back before. We have literally taken down the giants in the industry about unfair business practices and how they're hiding things, how credit karmas of the world don't want to reveal the truth. Well, my guest today is going to be Nick Alfano, and we are going to be discussing the cold, hard facts, the truth behind collection agencies and what's actually going on the other side of that phone or the other side of that letter that you have received. So when we come back, man, we are swinging for the fences here, and it will be a home run. So I'll see you in just a second. Welcome back, everybody. Merrill Chandler here. Have you ever really first of all, I know so many of you have been completely been taken advantage of, disgusted by the whole process of debt collections, right? And I'm not saying that we don't owe the debt. I'm not saying that there are times in which we need to make right with our word of honor, right? But so many times I've also talked about that you either keep your agreements or make a new agreement. Both of them keep you in your integrity. Well, in this episode, my guest here is Nick Alfano. He is a serial entrepreneur, a former attorney, and more importantly, the former owner of 23 debt collection offices spanning the country. And his claim to fame, which I know the bona fides, his claim to fame is that his collection model was that he sold collection franchises, the equivalent of, he licensed his collection technology because it was so profitable and it was so compelling of an argument. Welcome, Nick. I'm glad to have you here. Tell my tribe a little bit about your experience, because today, guys, we're going to cover a gambit of being in an environment and having an epiphany that maybe that environment is not for our highest good, and pivoting and making new choices. Nick, talk to us about kind of your background, where you came from, and how you ended up with 23 debt collection offices that were insanely profitable for them and maybe a little hardcore on the debtors.
Yeah, on the ethics side. So this is about 10 years ago, maybe 11 now. I moved to a new city. I bumped into an old friend, and he appeared to be doing extremely well for himself. And oddly enough, I think I was coming out of a Red Robin with my daughters, and he was like, "Hey, I got this thing going on. You should come check it out. I think you'd be really good." Now, mind you, this friend and I went back 6-7 years, and he knew that I had been a general manager and a couple different things, a district manager for LA Fitness. So he knew I basically had the gift of gab. So I go to his collections office, and I'm there for 3 days. And this is what I saw in that 72-hour period. Now, his MO, by the way, was to let you check it out, and he's kind of shopping you as well. And then after day 3, if it seems like a good fit, he would take your social and your driver's license and put you in the system, and off you went as an actual, not even an employee, as a 1099 contractor. Within 3 days, I saw a husband and wife doing drugs in the location, and they brought a pit bull to work with them every day. This is some things that happen in these. I saw the same husband and wife and about 4 others take the credit cards that they were getting from, we're going to use Miss Jones
Let's go with Miss Jones.
A lot, right? So they get the debit card from Miss Jones or credit card to pay off an account. They take that credit card information that's valid. They go to Best Buy on their lunch break, and they buy gift cards from someone they know at Best Buy. Then they come back, this is their words, and they cluck them. They sell a $500 Best Buy card for $300 cash to whoever wants to buy it in that same debt collection shop. That's just some of the type of people you're dealing with. So needless to say,
I'm laughing, guys, just so that the tears don't flow. You've seen me cry for a number of reasons on this podcast, but this one it's literally the underbelly of the financial world. And we're barely scratching the surface. Continue, Nick.
Yeah, so that kind of showed me that they don't vet anybody. There's no sort of background checks being done, live scans, fingerprints, and if you check the
no
box
security
for felony,
details to get in.
Yeah, it seems like if you check felony, they actually would move you up the queue to the front of the line. And these people have access to social security numbers, credit cards, just carte blanche to your personal data, which is frightening. So day 3 came around. He asked for my driver's license and social, and I was like, no way, I can't be associated with this. But I did see what the potential for a sound business model. So it took me about 6 months to get my licensing and to get some funding and to get my ducks in a row. I opened my first office in September of 2010. We were heavily undercapitalized because I didn't know what I was doing, but the industry is almost that easy that we turned 30 grand into 1.3 million in less than 12 months.
Okay,
and we were
say that again.
I'll tell you where I got the 30 grand, because this is your podcast and I know how you roll and how I roll. When I worked at LA Fitness, I sold steroids for about 7-8 years. And then when I went to start law school, I made a promise to my wife I wouldn't sell steroids anymore. And so what I did was I gave my little black book of all my clients that bought steroids to a good buddy of mine. So when I needed money to start the collections office, I knew right where to go. I go to my buddy and said, hey, I've made you a ton of money. I'm no longer in that industry. I made a promise to my wife, but I've got something, legit. I'm trying to get going. It's going to cost me X. And
I want to become a debt collector. I'm going legit. I'm going to be a debt collector.
Yeah. It was a massive step up, though. It was like, hey, why don't you give me the drug money to open the collections office? And this goes. So he gives me $30,000 in an envelope, literally. We take the 30 grand, we open a business account, and we get going. My third week in, I get a call from a college student at Florida State. And she destroys my website, which, by the way, I built myself overnight. I'm just pointing out that we were tripping over ourselves. We were creating documents from scratch, scripts from scratch, but we still managed to turn that 30 grand with 8 human beings in a small office. We actually started out of my house into 1.3 million. So we're like, okay, we're on to something here. I opened up a couple more locations out of necessity because we were becoming a little popular in the city we were in, but there wasn't enough commercial square footage. So we moved out to 2 other cities. And then the hammer dropped from a liability standpoint. We were getting sued left and right because I had no control over what was being said. And that's when I devised the franchise model, quote unquote. So I pulled back to one location that I could control from what are these people saying?
Because even with your, like you said, leveling up, even with your leveling up, the people generally, and I don't want to include everybody in this, but the people generally that are attracted to this are quick money, hard money, and they're 100%. Willing to do or say what they need to do or say in order to close a deal or collect a debt.
Yeah, mind you, we're in the state of California at this time. Minimum wage is through the roof. We were undercapitalized, like I said. We didn't know what we were doing, so we were just offering people eat what you kill. For everything you close, you get a percentage, but that's it. I don't have money. I don't have a guarantee to give you. I don't have minimum wage to give you. I definitely don't have benefits to give you. So come on down. I'll teach you how to run your mouth and go from there. So as clean as we thought we were teaching them, and we were, you can only control so much. So as we opened different locations, people were basically saying whatever it took to get the money. I'm sure several of you have been on the other end of these phone calls. And that's when we scaled back and I said, you know what, let's turn these into franchises, because then, and this is my thought process, and I've come a long way, we'll reap all the benefits, but we don't have any, moral compass. I can still sleep at night, no liability. We all win. So that went on for a while. And yeah, it was like you said, I was making money hand over fist, for years. I stepped away from the industry for 2 years and I came running back because I thought I had the Midas touch, and I tried to dabble in 3 or 4 other industries, so to speak. Realized that I wasn't the best entrepreneur in the world. I just found an industry that, the margins are, I'm just going to say it. It is like selling legal drugs. The margins are insane. We are at the point now, I'll give you guys some crazy insight. If you have a $2,000 Best Buy card that you owe money on, that you let go, if I owned it, I probably paid $25 for it.
No, say that again, guys, because we talk boot camp or otherwise, we talk about the cost of acquiring debt, right? Or the low cost of acquiring debt. And I will want to go into the two models, right? There's the contractor and the
contingency
purchaser.
and debt buyers. Yeah.
So
we were debt buyers. So we're buying debt, and you hear this term a lot. You hear the term pennies on the dollar. Let me just tell you, if you're far enough down the chain of title and you're willing to say just about anything, it's not even pennies on the dollar. It's not even 1 penny on the dollar. You're in what they call the BIP range, BPS. So it's literally a percentage of every penny for every dollar. So I'm not even paying 1 cent on the dollar for your old debt. I really don't care what you have to say. I really don't care if I get a hold of you. I'm just rolling the dice and basically seeing how many people I can get a hold of. And that was the model. So yeah, we were in the BIP range. If you're far down the chain, I'm talking 4 or 5 offices down the chain of title, you're paying less than a penny on the dollar. So again,
Yeah. So by chain of title. So let's bring this into the universe that we've they're familiar with. The chain of title is, as you know, you can only technically, you can only collect a debt that you are the owner of. But when Nick is saying that it's 4 or 5 down the chain, that means it's been sold several times. And our policy is we want to, even if a debt is no longer reporting on a credit profile, it does, and it's past statute of limitations, it's still on somebody's books, and somebody may have paid 10 cents or 1/10 of a cent to get that thing, and they have no problem for the high yield on collecting that debt. They have no problem in putting you on robo-dollars and and papering you with letters to make sure that they can collect something. Right. So explain to us then, Nick, the differences between the two types of collection agencies out there.
Yeah, so there's only 2 types of models in the entire collections world. You have your contingency collectors and your debt buyers. So if you work contingency, these are the guys that actually work typically in-house for the original creditor. So like, again, let's just keep using Best Buy as an example. Best Buy will hit you with a 30-day, a 60-day, a 90-day late. They'll continue to call you. They might ding your credit for those 30, 60, 90s. And then Best Buy has 2 options. Best Buy can drop it into a more aggressive but in-house collection agency, right? Where they basically give them a 30% fee to collect on whatever they can. Or Best Buy can say, you know what, we're going to chalk this up as a loss. We're going to take the tax break, by the way, and then we're going to sell it down the chain. Now, once Best Buy sells it, they're no longer allowed to call on it. More importantly, and this is something to remember, not only can they not call on it, but they have to purge all your records
from their databases.
From their database. So like we get this a lot. We'll have somebody on the phone, and by law, we have to mention the original creditor, which we need to do anyway to kind of jog their memory. But they'll go and call the original creditor, and the creditor has no idea about the account any longer, and rightfully so, because they had to purge their database. But now, anyway,
I want to keep your thought, guys. And remember, when you guys have called in, right, said, hey, I just want to pay this off directly with you. And they're like, I have your name because you're on a mailing list, but you're not, we don't own this debt anymore. That causes a great deal of confusion in most borrowers, because they're like, yeah, but my relationship was with you. This is why Nick's information and all this knowledge is so powerful, is because the owner of the debt is the legally is the only person or group that has the legal opportunity to collect on it. So the second they pass it down, it could have said Best Buy, and again, you have to legally mention what the original source was.
Yeah, we have to mention the original creditor under FDCPA law. That FDCPA stands for Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Yes, that's like what regulates our entire industry.
Continue.
And it is confusing, and it is frightening, because I don't know if you want to get into this yet, but I will advise all of you to always work the chain. So typically, like from a consumer advocate standpoint, what I would tell anybody to do is, if you get a call from somebody you don't recognize, you're a little hazy on the account because maybe it is 6 or 7 years old, you don't see it on your report for some reason. Working the chain is what I encourage people to do. So by working the chain, you always start with the original creditor, which has to be mentioned to you anyway. And then they will tell you who they sold it to. They always will. They have to.
And
then you call them, and then they will tell you who they sold to. So you work the chain down. And if the chain doesn't end with the particular office that's calling you, I'll tell you right now, you're one of 9 million people a day, because that's very common. So this is hands down the biggest scam going on right now in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to break down a little? Okay,
Break it.
so this is happening right now, and it's heavily in Lower Florida. So if you're from Lower Florida, I'm sorry. If you know some of these guys, if you go out to dinner with them, change your circle of friends. So a quick background. If you guys want to watch something on Netflix, it's called Buffaloed. It literally breaks down the entire debt collection model. This entire concept of debt buying started in Buffalo, New York, upper state New York. It's heavily ran by Jewish and Italian. It's heavily ran by the mafia. You'll learn a lot of that. But long story short, the feds went crazy on Buffalo, so everyone ran down to Florida, which is very common, just like the mob. And now Florida is kind of the hotbed for what we'll call the criminal activity in this arena. So if I own, and I do, a ton of accounts, right, and I want to sell them, it's very easy for me to pop open an LLC, hide behind that LLC, and for example, on a given transaction, I might receive $300,000, and all I do is send out a file. I literally press the send button on my computer, and all you get is an Excel file and a piece of paper that says you now own it. Happy hunting.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening in this industry is that same guy with no morals, right, all money, is literally taking 300 grand. That's a big number, but it happens daily from 3 or 4 different offices nationwide, pressing send 4 times, saying happy hunting, and then it comes down to who's got the bigger floor, meaning who's got the most collectors to collect on that the fastest. So Miss Jones might be getting 4 different calls from 4 different companies about the same exact account. And now her head's spinning because she has no idea who to pay. And she's well within her right to think all 4 are fraud. But one might be legit. One might have actually bought, might have paperwork that says that they own and et cetera. So, and that's a very, very common practice in this industry. So.
Thank you. It's guys, when I met, so you guys know that Multiple Club has become a really powerful part of my professional life and personal life. And I met Nick at Multiple Club because we're both scaling our businesses. We're all practicing at becoming better and better CEOs, better and better human beings, so that we can actually kind of flip this script. And I'll let Nick get to that part of the story in a moment. But the whole idea, when he and I met, I've known about probably 60% of what Nick had shared with me originally, but the other 40% scared even me because I hadn't been able to sit down with somebody who was playing the game at the level of this, the BIPS level, right? There was literally where you're picking up as much debt for as little as possible, and then you're just beating the shit out of every one of your the people who answer the phone in order to pick up that 25, 200, 500 bucks and do that several hundred times a day, right? So talk to us then about what was it that moved you? What was it where did it start percolating? Because the Nick I know is you are madly integrous, madly a family man, madly about being a giver, right? A little bit that Nick won't tell you is that at the Multiple Club, you spend so much time supporting other of us members. In fact, I have a new workout routine and a new hardware and software that Nick recommended to me. And you are available to me to help me in every way so that I can up my game as a man, as an entrepreneur, and the gifts you've been giving, the service that you render, even at our quarterly meetings, right? All the things that we're doing. Just mad props to you, because so I know your heart. I know where you're coming from, because some of the shit we've done together at Multiple Club, it really is climbing down into the depths of our soul and doing some serious scraping, right? We're actually we're moving all of the old, ugly, not enoughness out of us and into, so that because we can only build a $50 million company if we believe we're worth 50 million. That's the bottom line, right? Absolutely. So thank you, first of all, for everything that you've done. But kind of give us the line of sight from where you're making millions and you're selling your idea and you're top of that game, and all of a sudden now you're here.
Sure.
Walk us through that process.
Where is here? Yeah. So I will say, when I said earlier, I left the industry for 2 years and it was 100% a moral decision. Like I woke up and I just had this like moral epiphany that a sentence that really stuck with me, and I'll just put this out there for everybody. So I have 3 kids and then 1 adopted. So, we'll just call it 4 kids. And someone approached me one time and I was going through some things and they said, hey, at any moment, you need to ask yourself these questions. If you're ever doubting like what you're doing, whether it's a transaction or just any moment in life where you're having some sort of like doubt, remember this. And I have 2 daughters, 2 sons, by the way. Your son will become you, and your daughter will marry you. And that hit me pretty hard because it was essentially, and it goes further to say, like, are you the man that you want your son to become? And are you the man that you want your daughter to ultimately marry? So, that was rough because at the time I was cheating on my wife. I've never been like a drug or alcohol guy. So I didn't have that level of sedation, but I definitely found my sedation in women. And so, and then I was making money, and I kept telling myself the story because essentially what I was doing, the franchise model allowed me to stay in the game. The franchise model allowed me to continue to sell, because if you actually see my model, if anyone wants to see the pitch, it's gorgeous and it's very much built on empathy and it's extremely clean. Yeah. But the checks that these guys were cutting me every month, once they purchased my model, I would be ignorant to think that they weren't living in the gray and eventually the black, right, beyond the dark side, with the money that they were producing and how quickly they were producing it. So it was one of these things where I knew what was going on. My particular office was squeaky clean, but we never saw anywhere near the numbers that were coming in from my franchises. And I just kept telling myself, like, well, I'm operating above board and all I can do is tell these guys what to do, and I can't control everybody, and give me that money, and give me that money. So, so I stepped away for 2 years, and then I came back, and I really focused on trying to be an industry disruptor. Like, the whole name of my game was like, how on earth? So this is something that I wish they would take seriously, and it really let me know where the industry is as a whole when no one would hear my voice. So there's an annual meeting every year, hosted by the DBA. It's the Debt Buyers Association. It's in Vegas. It's called the DBA International, big convention. And I went 3 years in a row, and I tried to get rooms, and I tried to stand on my soapbox and scream, like, if they would come up with a database, like some sort of system whereby every time a file or a pile of debt or whatever you want to call it, portfolio is sold down the line, it gets serial numbered, it gets serialized, and it goes into this database. And then it's really just buyer beware. Like, if you're still willing to go out there and purchase portfolios and it doesn't come through this legitimate database where only one person can truly own it, and you can trace the chain of title legitimately, then you're already up to no good. And I would encourage any, and Merrill and I spoke about this, and we're still trying to figure something out. But I own a domain called zombiedebt.net, and we're essentially trying to create a database whereby, as a consumer, if you don't see it on your credit report and you don't see it in this database, don't pay it. Yeah, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
And that zombiedebt.net is it's all Nick's brainstorm. But when we first met, I mean, imagine us, his energy, my energy, we're ricocheting off each other about how to register legal and lawful debt. Correct. And have a single source from what, and first come, first serve. Whoever has that serial, whoever's associated with that serial number, it can be transferred to another collector, but it's the way the law is designed, is that only one person has access to the collection rights at a time. And it's highly, and for our purposes, when we're doing when we want to pay to delete, right? Well, we know where we can go to find the true owner, the lawful owner of the debt, and right, and navigate and negotiate in order to create that, right? So anyway, continue with you because it does become this is not dead, Nick. It is not dead.
I know. I'm just like, it's one of those things where I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for 3 years, and I'm only getting and I know Merrill's experienced this because he's the same as me. Like, the more I pull back the curtain, and I call it pulling cards, but I'm pulling all the big boys' cards. Like, I know who's up to no good. Yeah. I've been navigating this industry for 10 plus years as an attorney, One of my biggest things as a debt buyer was imagine 23 people pooling their money together to buy debt and all going through me. So I became a pretty big player in terms of like showing up to the brokers with a very, very big wire transfer monthly. And I was getting first in line for some, I've been to the mountaintop, not as high as Merrill in his industry, but I've been very close. They won't let me all the way in. The tattoos I've got, even though I'm an attorney, I'm still maybe not presentable enough. But long story short, it really, really hurt to see that. And I kind of knew that this industry has no desire to change because it's just that lucrative. Like 90%, it is that high of a number. 90% of people in this industry are absolute criminals. And it's because it's not regulated. Like the FDCPA is so archaic and no one's going to do anything about it. I'll tell you right now, this is why they do what they do. I can call you and I can violate 6 different things legally. I'm going to pay a $1,000 fine.
Yeah.
If you choose to even go to an attorney. And the problem with you going to an attorney is they know the FDCPA doesn't pay out statutory. It doesn't pay out enough. Right. And they're $5,000 retainers alone. So we don't even get we don't. It's like it just allows all the cowboys to come in and be cowboys because the regulation scheme in this industry is pretty much non-existent.
Non-existent.
Yeah, it's frightening. So and there's more.
There is room for for us in our capes. That's all I know. There's room for us to make some changes. And you guys know I am Mr. Zealot anyway, right? And Nick has been working on the same course correction for the debt buying industry as I've been for credit repair, right? The nonsense that's out there versus the truth. And a kinder and simpler system that would actually give everybody accountability and still be profitable, right? The amount it's going to cost if the single database with serialized debt were in place, it's not like you're going to make less money. You just only one person is going to be. You can only sell your debt portfolio to one group instead of, in your example, 4 or 5, right? So but for the one who owns it, there's still a profitable play. So I'm not against profit motive. I am, but I want there to be accountability in this industry. And that's where Nick and I just like, it was an amazing synergy when in our first discussion and every discussion since. So you're sitting there, you go back after your 2-year moral dilemma and
so I came back in and I'll give you my model. So my model as it stands, I wouldn't say right now because I'm completely out, but as it stood, 6, 7, 8 months ago was you can't collect more than $5 a day from Ms. Jones. So can we cuss on here? Is there rules here?
Yeah, I do.
Cool.
So
we don't subscribe to, if you guys are Goodfellas fans, you'll know this line, but it's called "fuck you, pay me," right? And that's essentially what most of these guys adhere to. That's their model. And I've heard everything from guys running police scanners behind them, so you think they're involved with the cops. I've heard people threaten to gut your cat and leave it on your front door. Like, it's all scare tactics. It's all fuck you, pay me. So my entire model for the last couple of years was predicated on one word, and that was empathy. So a couple of things is we wouldn't hire you unless you were currently in debt. Like, you had to actually be experiencing the pain of getting these calls from collectors so that you wouldn't take it out on Ms. Jones. And you couldn't collect more than $5 a day. We send out wet thank you cards. Like, we tried everything. Like, if you paid your bill, we would give you a huge pat on the back, and then we would sign like a wet thank you card. We donated a certain.
What he means by wet thank you is a wet ink, actually legitimate, not printed, but actual a blue ink, wet ink signature, saying, "Hey, good job, keep going."
Yeah, and for those of you on this that are in any sort of industry, because everything's so easy nowadays with Vistaprint and like you said, robocalls, you can automate everything in the world to really like enhance your productivity, but you cannot automate intimacy. Like, you just cannot automate intimacy. It can't be done. And so we were really big on, like, an average collector maybe closes 3 deals a day. It's not hard to pencil 3 thank you cards. And not only do they have the wet signature, but they had to mention something unique about the phone call. So, we did everything we could, and then we would show people how to make the $5 a day. Like, we would literally tell them, look, $5 a day is a Starbucks habit, is a nicotine habit, is a Carl's Jr. run, a Hardee's run you don't need to make. So, we would kind of show them the $5 a day. We would let them choose their payment plan. We'd let them skip a payment plan around Christmas. If they called us and they had 4 flat tires, they got to miss a month. Like, we tried so hard to just be that person. And we were much less profitable but I had a very happy crew. I only had women working for me. They absolutely loved what they did. But it wasn't making a dent, and so
in the $14 billion debt buying and annual debt buying. And remember, because it is a pain in the ass, guys, to collect. And so that's why there are a number of finance companies, especially our tier 4, 40%, your mall store cards, right? Your Seagull cards, what we call them. All those credit instruments are literally just cast off. And they already counted on a certain number of them being written off. And so they're thrown off at what would you say is for the first owner or buyer of the debt? What do they buy in at? 5, 10%, 30%? What's the first buyer down title or down the chain of title?
10 to 12%.
10 to 12%. So guys, if you have, like you said, a Best Buy card, it was $2,000. They're picking that up for $200, $150 to $250.
If you guys call and negotiate, when you start calling and negotiating, if it's at least 2 people down the chain of title, you need to be talking about 3 or 4%. Like that's realistic. Like I have a direct line right now with K Jewelers, so I can tell you right now, I buy direct from K Jewelers. I'm first in line, and I pay 4 cents on the dollar. So
4
cents depends on your relationship. Yeah,
guys. So
look,
all right.
If you didn't, marry the girl and you didn't get the ring back and you owed the money, whatever the reason is, I literally bought your $10,000 ring that you bought, for next to nothing. So just remember that when you're calling these guys, like you need, knowledge is power. So I can definitely tell you how to. And at the end of the day, 90% of them are violating the FDCPA religiously because they're not worried about the $1,000 fine. But what you can do is you can call out all their violations, and they'll literally just say the first step they all do, because they paid nothing for your account, is they offer you a release of liability to avoid litigation. So if you threaten the right things, and I can show you exactly how to craft that, we can get into that, or I'll provide you that tool, Merrill. You can literally, you won't even have to pay half of these. You don't even have to even settle and negotiate dollars. You can literally just shake them down and say, hey, you guys did it to me. I'm gonna do it to you. What do I want? Look, I'm gonna get an attorney. I'm gonna get you for $3 or $4 grand and make it a headache, or just send me a release of liability. That's all you really want is the ROL.
Right. All right. Tool. And so what would it be to, what would be language if somebody wanted to retire the debt? I mean, literally whatever cents on the dollar, what we call the pay to play, the pay to delete. What is the motivation behind them saying yes to a pay to delete phone call for these collectors?
So you're asking me what would you have to say to get them to just drop your account?
Or not drop the account. Let's say that they are willing to pay it. We'll get into the drop the account in the ROA in a sec. But okay. What if they are willing to pay it? Yeah, I want to pay $200. How do we get them to delete? Because what's important to us and our clients is that if it's on the report, they remove it from the report. So how do we get a pay to delete to be really, really good in that conversation? Any tips about what would help motivate them to remove the item from the credit report?
I always like to fish and see if they're actually in bed with the FCRA, because a lot of these guys, depending on where they lie in chain of title, they don't like to play with the credit reports. So for example, if it's still showing as Best Buy on there, and you're getting called from somebody that's not Best Buy, 90% of the time, these guys don't even touch credit. So if they tell you they're going to remove from the credit, they're not, because they don't have access to. It's a completely different ball game. So it's called Metro 2 formatting. I can tell you why most of them don't play with credit reports anymore. It's a cost benefit thing. Ever since all these apps and everything came out that allow you to just hit dispute on 8 different things. So I did this. I had a full blown. We were only buying debt that was 4 to 5 years old because we wanted it to be on credit reports. It spoke to our validity. And then all of a sudden, because I've been around since 2009, so basically I can't remember what year this was, but anyway, we just started getting disputes like 1,000 at a time because all these apps started coming out, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, and now all these third-party guys. And I had to hire a set of girls to just throw them in the dungeon and say, hey, respond to all these, because you know the game. If you press dispute and the ball gets hit into my side of the court, and if I don't hit back within a certain time frame, I can no longer argue that. So I give you a buzzword. I would say like, hey, do you guys have access to Metro 2 formatting? When you say things like this, it freaks them out. Like, do you guys have access to Metro 2 formatting? Can I get some sort of notice?
So that's access to Metro
2 formatting. Yeah, that's the only format that is acceptable. So if I own 8,000 accounts and they're in an Excel file. In order for me to report them on credit and then alter them on credit, I have to convert them to this certain format that's extremely specific and proprietary to credit reporting. It's called Metro 2. That buzzword alone, if they don't know what you mean, they don't report on credit. I mean, you might have someone that's just lower. You might have a lower level employee that has no clue what you're saying, but it frightens them because, then ask for a supervisor, ask for a supervisor.
That is a legal framework that they have to, if they're going to report, it's going to be in that formatting.
Correct.
So now you're already peeking further than they want you to behind the curtain.
And that's all that freaks them out. And then they usually will just get rid of the, and that obviously, like you said, we still need to pay our bills. So if it's legitimately your debt, knock it out but knock it out for as low as possible. That makes sense for you.
Yep.
You can ask them, are you guys contingency or are you debt buyers? Ask them that in a heartbeat. If they're contingency, then they usually have to adhere to the exact principles of the original creditor. So if they're contingency for Best Buy, they have to fall in line with whatever Best Buy's, M&Ps are for collecting. But if they're a debt buyer, you just open the gate up to the fact that they probably paid less than 10 cents on the dollar if they're further down the chain. Okay, so you're a debt buyer. Excellent. How far down the chain are you? Who did you purchase it from? It's still reflecting as Best Buy on my account, but you're calling me as M&A and Associates. I don't see you on my credit report. Is there a reason for that? Well, we don't. Well, if you don't report on credit, then how can I guarantee if I pay this off, you're actually going to report it positively or remove it from my credit report?
This litany, guys, do you see why Nick is on this call with us? Because he is filling in blanks, even in my experience, and I am loving this. This is brilliant. So we will get to, do you have a series of questions that we can put in our notes or make sure that our clients are using to be able to do this, because these are phenomenal, and I can't wait to if you can, just whatever series, 3 questions, 5 questions, whatever that is, I want to put them in our show notes for our listeners, and I want to make sure that our advisors are trained accordingly, because this is brilliant, and this podcast is going to be mandatory listening for even our team members. So you're welcome, Funding Tribe. You're welcome. So, all right. So what are you doing now, and how did you get here?
Yeah. So I went on this, personal development journey about 2.5, 3 years ago. I kind of hit rock bottom as far as my relationship. I had built and burned a few businesses because, again, I thought I had the Midas touch, and I went out there and I thought I was Entrepreneur of the Year. And it really comes down to this concept of, like, if things aren't good on all fronts, like with your family, with your personal fitness, your being, like, whatever relationship with a higher power you do or don't believe in, everyone has some form of spirituality. So when all of those things are off course, like Merrill said, my bank account was awesome. So I thought I had it all figured out. Like, it's a very common story. Like, once I make the money, everything will be good. Like, once I make $1 million, my wife will think I'm awesome. Once I get the big house with the fence, my kids will think like daddy made it. Affirmations. Like, I would literally, like, I was buying cars, ladies and gentlemen, like, I don't think I bought a car under 200 grand in I don't know how long. And I literally got off more on some, like, 17-year-old kid pulling up to me at a light going like, "Oh, fuck, bro, nice car." Like, that was more important to me than like the way my wife or kids saw me. So I was financially on top of the world, but I was morally bankrupt. And so I went on this personal development journey. I met a gentleman named Nick Long. And I've never turned back. Like, we joke about this all the time when people ask what I do. I tell people I'm a professional cliff diver now. So I've never really subscribed to any one thing or one person so much in my life. I've always been a bit of an alpha, and I usually kind of call the shots. And especially, you're running 20-some franchises. Everyone's coming to me for everything. So I felt like I would never buy into another human being's philosophy, et cetera. And this guy just, like, spoke, like, straight through my soul. Like, he had me crying over appetizers at Applebee's in less than 5 minutes of meeting me. And I'm a bigger dude, with tattoos and stuff. And people were like, this guy's either going to flip the table over and smack somebody, or he's just a big sissy. Turns out I'm a big sissy, which is cool. But so anyway, when I say I'm a professional cliff diver now, like, I believe in this guy so much that if he says, hey, Nick, like, here's the new objective. Here's what I know you were born to do. Like, you were born to do X, but in order to get there, you need to shed all the bullshit stories, the bullshit money you're making, the bullshit, industries that you're in. And in the last 2.5 years, I've stopped being an attorney and I walked away from debt collections, and for two big reasons: lack of integrity, mainly, and no real passion or purpose with either of those. So it was like, again, you can't keep waking up every day. I don't care how much money you have. You can't keep waking up every day and just going
hating
after
yourself
money and sacrificing everything else in life. And so, since then, the theme of my life has been impact over income. It's really been about just like, trying to establish a business and business principles that are more about transformation than transactions. And so, yeah, man, I've just been trying to add value to everybody on the planet Earth. And I took a huge dip in finances for a while, but now it's been on the upward trajectory for about 1.5 years. Like I've never made more money. I've never been happier in my life. And I don't even get it. I don't understand what's going on.
And I actually can go to sleep at night, and I don't hate myself in the process. Right.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
No,
So
I love it. I loved who I met when I met you at this stage in your life.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Merrill was actually there for you guys that don't know. Like, so I flipped over the razor with Merrill, so that's cool. It's a cool story we'll always have. And hey, here's the funniest thing about this whole thing, though. It's me, Merrill, and these two other guys. Like, the net worth of this vehicle is ridiculous, but no one seemed to care about that because it was literally no one would let me take my foot off the gas, and literally Merrill's back right at me, and he's just like hitting my helmet, like slapping me, like, go faster, don't you fucking stop. No. Like, this guy is nuts. This guy was, I'm going to blame Merrill for the accident, because I was literally like, I was going to brake, and then Merrill like punched me in the back of the head and said, if you brake, we're done. So,
loyalty over safety every time.
All day long. Yeah. I only go hard and I run into walls, and then I just find a new wall and I just course correct. I'm a big fan of decision velocity. Like, I'm just going to keep making decisions and go ape shit. And then it's either going to work or it's not. And I'll make a new decision. So,
totally. Yeah. Well, so what are your kind of, we're sitting here looking at you with the program. For those of us, because many people are going to listen to the audio, but for those who are watching on YouTube, watching in our video podcast, what is it that you are? How are you transforming the world now? Because it's an easy call. My team is excited and bored of listening to me of how I'm transforming the world. So, what is it that you bring? What is it that this new this metamorphosis, right? This caterpillar to the butterfly that's happening for you. What are you bringing to the world, and how are you going to make the impact over income?
Yeah. So over my 2.5 year journey, I received a lot of gifts. I received a lot of tools, a lot of things I wish I had, a while back, but you don't decide when you get them. You just need to make sure you're ready when they show up. And so I felt like, and I still feel like these aren't my gifts to hold on to, they're my gifts to give. And so the program is essentially, it's designed for elite entrepreneurs, high level executives. It's mainly men right now, but basically what we do is we're focusing on your self-worth and its ultimate connection to your net worth. I know everyone's chasing money and everyone wants a higher dollar amount, etc. But I encourage my guys to kind of drop that, so impact over income. Like, the minute I stopped waking up and chasing money and I just started waking up and helping human beings, like, my whole world shifted, completely shifted. And again, there was a dip. Was there a dip in money? Yes. You can't wake up and be Mother Teresa and then everything's fine on the you still got to keep the lights on and the food on the table. But essentially it's this concept that your net worth is a direct reflection of your self-worth. And in order to increase your self-worth, you have to be willing to do the self-work. And I've been putting in this work for 2.5, 3 years, like really going deep on myself, like a lot of tears, and just a lot of unpacking, like to really figure out who I am. Like, basically took myself down to like a 7-year-old boy and then rebuilt that person. And so, yeah, it's right now it's a 90-day program. It's a one-on-one coaching program, and essentially it's built around the 4 pillars: family, fitness, focus, and finance. So we make sure you're good with your wife and kids. I got 3 guys now that are not doing well with their, they're sleeping on couches or not even at home. Your fitness, your body. I'm a huge believer in that. I used to do personal training for years. I still train a lot of people. And you have one vessel, and when you figure out how to take care of your body and start showing up, it really changes everything. You show up to one of these podcasts in better shape, or you show up in a boardroom to execute that $1 million transaction. When you feel good about yourself, a lot changes. And at the end of the day, you have an obligation. If you have a wife or kids, like, they deserve the best version of you. Like, they deserve you to add years to your life and not be taken away by drugs and alcohol and gaining weight, et cetera. Like, you need to add years to be around for those grandbabies, et cetera. And so, family fitness focus, again, like, I'm really big on, and Merrill can attest to this, meditation and journaling. Like, if you would have told me 2 years ago you're going to meditate and journal every day for the rest of your life, because that's
right
now, I can't even say the words I would have called you. I would, you know what I mean? Like, I would have been, I'm just not that guy, you know? And,
right. And I have to throw in a witness here, because this morning I've been working with, it's called the Whoop, and WHOOP, but it's a band like Fitbit or otherwise. But here's the bad juju. The awesome bad juju is that we're part of the multiple club. And the members of the multiple club have the Whoop. So we're all accountable to each other for our workouts. And there's a thing that's called the strain factor, which is how much of you have you actually spent in physical fitness, in meditation, in these areas. There's a strain factor. And so I get in, I'm a little slow adopter, and I get in, and on my first day, I'm looking at my phone and watching this strain meter while I'm like, so I do 200 reps and of a variety of things, push-ups, sit-ups, burpees, but 200 reps, right? And my strain only went till it was like 5.9. I'm like, hell no, I am not leaving this thing at 5.9. I got to break 6. So I'm doing high knee runs. I'm sprinting in place.
It's working.
In high knee, and this damn machine is driving me to whole new levels of performance. And then when it calculates, I end up as number 5 today out of 20 of us or whatever. And I'm like, and then to beat the band, it says why you're standing is what it is, and it literally reveals what your the high in what is high impact intense training.
Yep.
So your HIIT training, I take an ice shower as soon as at my last 2 minutes of the day. It's listing out all of my activities that I go through in here, and it is so revealing, so vulnerable. And here's what's messed up: if I don't do it tomorrow, then imagine a bunch of alphas all at each other in a wolf pack, and everybody's like, all right, Chandler, where the hell you been?
Yep.
And what is this 2.0? What are you, falling from grace? I mean, It is so much fun. And so I have to be accountable to a bunch of younger, better looking, and more, many times more profitable, giants in industry. And I'm like, I'm not going to let them beat me. I'm not going to let them beat me. And it has been so fun. And I'm losing weight. I'm actually gaining more mass. And so thank you, Nick, for hooking this. You're the one who drives the entire multiple club fitness. Everybody's supposed to do their core 4, but you're the driver of everything that we're doing to push our limits. And I just want to say, damn it, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. So we didn't get to the program. Family focus.
Family fitness, focus, and finance. Yeah. So
finance.
It's an acronym. If you look at the acronym SELF, and it's about doing the self work. So we yell a lot these 2 things called S2F4. So it's SELF. So subscribing to elite levels of family, fitness, focus, and finance.
Excellent.
And I mean elite. Like we really have high levels of accountability. Like yesterday we had our call, and one of these gentlemen begged to be held to a higher standard in the mornings because he wasn't getting up for his morning workouts. And he didn't get up. And so we made him do 25 burpees at a Starbucks and record himself and send it in. So that's just, some of the little things, but essentially, and if he didn't have it in by 3:00 and he barely made it, I was going to make the entire group do it and record it and embarrass themselves. So we
shame ourselves to excellence.
Absolutely. So the first S is subscribe. Like you have to just go all in on yourself. So like they say these words, like I subscribe to elite levels of family, fitness, focus, and finance. And then
brilliant.
Once they get through the 90-day program and we've transformed them, we've reprogrammed them, we teach them how to sustain it. Because in my experience, and I've been a serial entrepreneur for 14 years now, a lot of people can get to the mountaintop, but very few can actually stay there. It really has to become ingrained in you in a lifestyle. So the second S is sustaining this elite level of family, fitness, focus, and finance. And so, yeah, it's a 90-day program. It's extremely intense, but I'll tell you right now,
joke.
It gets phenomenal results as long as you're willing to do the work. Like, I can actually guarantee the investment you make financially, our goal is to at least 5x it within the 90 days, and we've never failed, unless the person decides not to do the work. Right. But it's essentially, it's unlike anything out there in the marketplace. So it's pretty intense.
It's brilliant, and I love. Again, you are charismatic and powerful, and you know how to drive, motivate, and inspire, and if it comes to it, shame the shit out of us to get the results, because sometimes we need a coach. So you guys, my clients out there, students out there, you know that we have a high level of accountability for your funding results, right? We do a very similar thing. We're focused on the financial end, but me as a man, as a human being, I'm focused on these four, right? I am doing everything in my power to make me worth more as a human being in what I give and what I contribute and how I show up. And as a result, there are market improvements. The energy in our team is increasing. Our influence in the world, the opportunities that come to me that I have no power over, the phone calls up and said, "Oh yeah, so-and-so is talking about you." We magnetize our results. So all I know is I'm making this soul right here a bright, shiny, radiant magnet, and everything that I want for my life is coming at me at warp speed. And Nick, you've contributed so much to that.
I'm going to jump in real quick and let your audience know if they don't know already. So there are 26 of us plus some coaches that kick our ass. And I can tell you right now that they call Merrill two things. Well, no, they call him one thing, which is the unicorn. So Merrill is hands down the favorite in the group from a charisma and personality standpoint. But this is the other thing they always say about Merrill. It's just two words, and I'm glad I'm allowed to cuss, or I couldn't tell you this. This is just the common theme in the group. Fucking Merrill. Like, Merrill always has some sort of story that blows your effing mind. He's extremely vulnerable and willing to share everything with us, which is, like, for those of you who have not understood this concept yet, it's one of the most powerful things a human being can do. A lot of guys, especially males, we fear vulnerability. We fear, my nickname in the group is Mr. COD, which is Mr. Cry on Demand. So, I'm 250 pounds with tattoos and muscles, and I promise you, I'm one of the biggest sissies you've ever met. But for years, you would hide those things, and to be around people like Merrill, it gives you permission to really, like, speak your truth. And I think that's one of the most powerful things you bring to the group. So
thank you. I celebrate everything about the human condition. You cannot do something wrong. Here's the funny thing is, I'm just ahead of the pack when it comes to this. Everybody will tell the story eventually, given enough time. Everybody will laugh at their failure or the shame or the craziness or whatever human experience. The only difference between me and anybody else is it's never too soon.
Yeah.
It could happen today, this afternoon, and
I just met this guy. And I know everything about him. It's really weird.
It's never too soon. And as you guys know, I'm devoted to making sure that we are that we bear no shame for the decisions that we make and the life that we have lived, because it's what brought us here. I would not 100%. Trade anything. And we're talking, you guys know my past. I don't care that those things happened, because I love my life now. And then I magnetize Nick Alfano and the multiple club crew, who literally say to my face,
and you have to shake your head. And it's Fuckin apostrophe. It's just it's just fucking Merrill. That's the go-to.
So, and we're all in it together. And so they make me, you guys inspire me. Thank you, Nick, for being with me today, and sharing this time, because it is so powerful what we're able to create as a team. What is Nick Long always say? If you got to go fast, go alone. If you're going to go far, go together. And that's what 100%. We're doing. We're going all the way, and we're all the way in as a group. So if you guys have comments, put them in the podcast. Let us know. We'd love to respond to anything, and we'll get you the things that we talked about today. Just simple questions.
Yeah, whatever tools you need, I'll give them to you. I'll create a whole entire whatever it takes to get everyone more educated on how to deal with these guys that are treating them wrong, because there's a lot of them out there.
Perfect. So. Thank you so much, guys. This is Merrill Chandler. I love you. I love my life, and I love this man. And Nick, thank you so much for joining me. Okay.
Thanks, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments, because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast, because we want them to get fundable too.